this one, well, you can put that one over there.
It's set, he's gonna control it. He turns it off and on.
Thank you.
Did you need to make an announcement?
I asked for people to be seated. And
Okay, as he said. He controls it when she gets that another switch. By the way, I loved your house. It was absolutely beautiful. And the pool was spectacular, so.
good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please take your seats. I'll get started. Welcome to the San Diego School of Christian Studies. I am Kay Gilbert. We welcome those present here in Under Hall and also those who are live streaming on the presentation. The School of Christian Studies addresses matters of concern to all people, spiritual matters. Our purpose is to create meaningful educational experiences of intellectual rigor, challenging adults and youth to deepen their faith as they broaden their knowledge, embracing unity in diversity. The school has a long history of combining both members and congregants from First United Methodist Church as well as St. Paul's United Methodist Church. Let me talk a bit about our order of business. Today, the lecture is entitled, "The Devastating Effects of Climate Change on Your Life and What You Can Do About It." The lecture will be followed by discussion. Please save your questions until the end. We will have you, and in fact, if you'll look at your tables, there's some 3x5 cards there. We will have, you may start writing your questions on there when they come up into your mind. We'll pick them up at the end of the lecture, and then all the questions we can will be presented to Cherry Robinson, our speaker today. In addition, I will just say, for those of you who are live streaming, we do have a coverage of your questions that can go in the chat, and please ask those and we'll get those into the question collection. While we are doing questions and answers, we'll pass the hat. Passing the hat is so that we can blatantly ask for donations, and they're just plastic paper bags, so we'll pass those around. And just remember that School of Christian Studies is not a line item on the church budget, so if you can, give generously. We also have sponsorships, and if you would like to talk with me later about that, I can show you how to be a sponsor. If you look on your table, you'll see some pink papers. Those are evaluation sheets. Please leave your evaluation of today's presentation, and we do read every one of them and any suggestions that you might have. We appreciate your evaluating. After questions and answers, then we'll have a light lunch, and I would ask you to just have a seat back at a table and talk with persons that you know there, or don't know. In fact, make new friends. Now, in introducing our topic today, there are 4 main principles that come with our theme of loving God's environmental creations. We have 4 principles. Principle number 1, stewardship. It involves taking care of the resources that we have entrusted to us by God. Genesis 2:15 says, "The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to take care of it." That's pretty direct. We're to take care of it. we are our stewards of our Eden. Principle number 2, creation care. In Genesis 1:31, God created the earth and declared it to be good. So he declared it to be good. And that also becomes our responsibility and our accountability. Principle number 3, love thy neighbor. Love for neighbors was taught extensively by Jesus. Caring for our environment is an expression of love for our neighbors, both present and our future generations. The environmental degradation can disproportionately harm those who are marginalized and any of our future generations. We have a duty and responsibility to care for our environment. Principle number 4, justice and compassion. The Bible often speaks about justice and compassion, especially for the poor and oppressed. Environmental degradation can have severe impacts on persons who just can't afford to keep up with all the terrible things that may be happening little by little by little, but specifically getting more calamitous. So those are our 4 main principles. And now for our lecture, the devastating effects of climate change on your life and what you can do about it. Our speaker is Dr. Cherry Robinson of the Climate Reality Project for San Diego chapter. Cherry is a consultant, a coach, a trainer who has spent her professional lifetime trying to get the earth into everything she does to make it better over her last 30 years in professional work. This has meant helping people to understand how their behavior affects the world around them. She understands what people can and cannot hear and how that affects what they will and will not do. She brings to us the ability to reach to the heart of the matter. And now I present Dr. Cherry Robinson.
Acknowledgement of all my work. I have to set up, so give me a minute. I have to get all plugged in. This is not Kevin's fault. Kevin plugged me in, and I unplugged me. Oh, please talk amongst yourselves for a moment, please. Please. Okay. Can you all hear me if I don't stand directly in front of the mic? I have to use You shall use the microphone. Yes, I shall. I will endeavor to stand close enough to do that. My name's Dr. Cherry Robinson, and I am here on behalf of the Climate Reality Project. The Climate Reality Project is an organization, it's a global organization, that is the brainchild of Al Gore. He took the money from his books and his movies. He put his money where his beliefs are. And he created a project whereby he went around the world and taught people to deliver the information that he was delivering, but on a community level. Because not everybody can hear things. You know, there can't be 100 million Al Gores. And now there's only 60,000 of us, so we're working on it. But we are stretched all around the globe, and there are a group of us here in San Diego. I have the benefit of having information from scientists, the best scientists from all over the world, to create the slide deck, and I hope that it is compelling to you. The 3x5 cards are on your table so that I don't stop talking and run into time problems, because I'm apt to do that. I will ask you questions because it's in my nature, so just raise your hand if you know the answer. I'm not a TV screen, so please respond as if I'm a human in the room. Unless you're on live stream, in which case I'm on TV in your room. So I have to say, my journey into this, I got an email about 10 years ago from Al Gore. Little old me, I got an email from Al Gore, and I opened it up because I'm like, nuh-uh. Nuh-uh, how in the world would he know anything about me anyway? So I opened up this email, and it invited me to this big training event in Denver. And I was like, and it looked really interesting. I mean, it's about climate change, and it's about work I'd been doing all my life, but I didn't have the resources to do it as well as I would have liked. And so I submitted this application to go to this training. And the training is free. It's 3 days. It's free. But it's 4 days, and it's free. And they feed you. But you have to be able to get there, and you have to be able to pay for your, anyway, that's not particularly relevant, other than, I don't know if you've ever been in a room with 900 people. And when you're in a room with 900 people, people talk. People get up, they move around, they get coffee, they go to the bathroom, they do whatever, right? For 2.5 hours, no one moved. In a room of 900 people. No one moved. No one had a sidebar conversation. No one got coffee. Nothing. I have never been in a room like that. At the end of my 4 days when I was leaving there, I really felt like somebody hit me in the head, and they said, I mean, I'm looking up at the room, and I'm looking around at the people that have become my comrades over the last 4 days, and I think to myself, go forth and speak the truth. And that's what I've been doing. So, welcome to my slideshow. Welcome to the Climate Reality slideshow. And look at that, it looks so beautiful up there. Thank you, Kevin. So the climate crisis and its solutions. The reason this is entitled Truth in 10 is because Al Gore can do it in 10 minutes. For those of us who are not Al Gore, it takes at least 30 minutes. And if you're not a speed reader, then it takes longer. So this is our planet. Rather, this is our planet. This is our home. This is our shared home. And when you look at it from space, man, it's really beautiful. I mean, yeah, it's really beautiful if you look at it from a lot of different directions, but from space, man, if you were flying by and you saw that, wouldn't you say, I want to stay there? Yeah? There are people out there looking for Planet B. Trust me, there ain't nothing we can see that looks anything like this. It's our shared home. That means what you do and what I do affects each other. That what people do on the other side of the world affects you. It is the very idea of the butterfly effect. If you sit in the parking lot and run your car and idle it, you're burning unnecessary gas and you're putting unnecessary pollution into the air. And that's everybody's air. And that is everybody's gasoline. Because gasoline is a planetary resource and we don't have much of it left. And I can get into that afterwards if you'd like. There are reasons why we can't take much more oil out of the ground. But anyway, this is our planet and it's beautiful. So there's 3 questions we need to ask ourselves about climate change. I mean, most of the rest of it's pretty apparent, but these 3 questions are, must we change? Do we have to change? Could we just go about what we're doing and, you know, politicians and scientists will do things and it will be okay? And then can we change and will we change? But we'll get to that. But right now we're going to just talk about must we change. So some of you, this might be, you might already know this, but just so we're all on the page, from the same page from the beginning, solar radiation comes from the sun, right? Comes from the sun. It comes to our planet. If we didn't have an atmosphere, it would fry us on contact, but we have this beautiful atmosphere, right? Most of the radiation is absorbed by the Earth and it warms it, right? Because it is just a ball floating around in space. Now we get into the tricky part. We can't really keep all the solar radiation that comes to the Earth from the sun. We just can't. But as you see, this radiation is leaving, right? Some radiation has to stay. That's what we use to grow our crops. That's what we use to create night and day. That's what we use to heat the land, all of that. The problem becomes, now pay attention to this gray line that goes around the planet. The problem happens when that filter, that atmosphere gets a little too thick and it keeps more solar radiation on the planet. I mean, that's the basic science of it. It keeps that solar radiation more than you would need. So if you think to yourself, well, usually I use, how many of you use like a light blanket at night? How many of you use like a down comforter? Not quite yet, right? Okay, so now add a down comforter to the blanket that you have. You might go to sleep at about 2 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be very unhappy, right? Now add another down comforter to that. And that's what we've done to our precious planet. The radiation is here, the heat is here, and it can't get out. This is the atmosphere. And if you note, as you look at it, the atmosphere's not really very thick. The atmosphere, proportion to the rest of the planet, is about the same as that tablecloth on your table. It's about the same, that's it. That's all you get. Yeah, it's about 10 miles, but 10 miles proportionate to the rest of the planet is really only that thick. And every day we are spewing 162 million tons of man-made global warming pollution into that little layer. This is how we're doing it, because you should know how you're managing this, because I'm managing it too. You probably don't use coal power, but what you don't know is that SDG&E has been piping in power from coal-fired power plants in Phoenix for forever. Yes, they've cut back on that because we are now creating more green energy, but there's still a little bit of it here. And if anybody's using coal, we're all using coal. There's crop burning, because there are some farmers that are still burning crops and it's still not a good idea. Forest burning, land transportation, which we're all very familiar with, industrial agriculture, and industrial processing, like creating plastic, my favorite, landfills, okay, any of these things. So this is not your fault personally, but it is the world you live in, and it is the world that we need to change. The largest source of global warming pollution is the burning of fossil fuels. And as you can see, we had a little dip right there around 2020. See that little dip? That was when we weren't going anywhere. We're back. So the energy trapped by man-made global warming pollution is now equivalent to exploding 750,000 first-generation atomic bombs, 365 days a year. Planet never gets a day off. It's how it is. I don't think I need to explain this. It used to get cool. It doesn't now. And that's global surface temperature, not just here, not just different places, not just the poles. The poles, you should know, are melting 4 times faster. They're heating 4 times faster than anywhere else on the planet. And what is at the poles, y'all? Anybody? Ice. What happens when you heat up ice? It melts. Where's it going to go? Oh, see, this is not tricky. The last 10 years have been the hottest on record. I am really sorry, but this is, I can't do it. Take this bag, someone. So I can't hear it making noise. So this is just North American heat. It's everywhere. It's not just here, but this is our heat in 2023. And as you see, the red part, the dark red part, is the part that that is hotter than usual. And note, here we are in California, and we are at the 81.5 degrees Fahrenheit, which is significantly hotter than it should be. We don't think about heat killing people, but it does. You don't think about heat affecting your health, but it does. Have anybody ever had heat exhaustion? I guarantee you have, you just don't know it. Heat exhaustion looks like lightheadedness, slight dizziness, little fatigue, and just not feeling your typical self when it's hot. And a lot of that has to do with how much you drink. Well, the problem is when it gets hot, we really don't drink much more than we usually drink. So heat exhaustion is like so prevalent, you can't even imagine it. And it is not a big step from heat exhaustion to heat stroke. And heat stroke looks a lot worse, and trust me, if you'd had a heat stroke, you'd know about it. But heat kills people, and part of the reason heat kills people is that people don't think it's going to kill them. They think, I live in Phoenix, it's always 120. But no, it is getting hotter, and it is affecting your system. In a week, in July in 2023, 570 people in Arizona were treated for heat-related illness, which means paramedics were there, they went to the hospital. So this is sucking up. If you're looking at this from a fiscal standpoint, it's sucking up an enormous amount of resources, right? People say, oh, but it's too expensive to fix climate change. And I think, do you know how much we're spending to not fix it? So many parts of the tropics, which are home to 3 billion people, there are 8.5 billion people, or maybe 9 billion people on the planet right now. So a third of the people on the planet live in the tropics, okay? Very soon it will become unlivable. So if you look, this is how things are right now. These parts that are black, that's where, you can see the parts that are black, yeah? Okay, that's where it's unlivable right now. meaning it's too hot for human beings to live there. They cannot survive. This is what will happen by 2070 if we don't change anything. If we continue to live business as usual, you see that that's almost the entire country of Africa, the whole top of South America, much of Central America, parts of Australia. I can go on, many island nations, but you get the idea, right? And 2070 just isn't that far. I mean, I know most of you are my age or thereabouts, and 30 years used to sound like a long time. It's not. So does anybody know what percentage of the planet is water? %75 ish. 93% of the extra heat trapped man-made global warming solution goes directly into the ocean, which is, yes, more than its fair share, no? Now, we're feeling the effects on land. Imagine what the ocean is feeling. I mean, the oceans are organisms that are these gigantic organisms that are very, very finely balanced and are becoming very unbalanced. So this is how our planet's heating up. You see, the atmosphere is really only the beginning of it, and land is getting, and then the ice is melting, and wait for it, here it comes. Okay, note the numbers, 2000 to 2008. So we're talking about maybe 20 years for this kind of escalation, which means we're not slowing down. People think, oh, well, we're making it better. We've done some things. We haven't done enough. We haven't done enough to shift the tide. And I know that some of you in this room will say, oh, yeah, it's really important to me to fix because of my grandchildren. Well, let me tell you, how many of you plan to live 3 more years? How many of you plan to live 5 more years? If we do not fix this in this 5-year window, there's a very good likelihood that we will not be able to fix it. There's something called tipping points. There are things that when that happens, there's no coming back from it. Now, maybe if the earth shakes us off and all of humanity is wiped out and it can reset itself, maybe, but that'll be in like a millennia. So when you heat up water, what happens? Evaporates, right? Well, when it evaporates and you have the whole ocean evaporating now, where does it go? Into the atmosphere, right? Well, and this is what happens when it goes into the atmosphere. The storms get bigger and there's more of them and they're all at one time. You say, well, we've always had big storm. Yes, we have. But I don't know if you're listening to the news that they're actually saying now, oh, this is climate change fueled storm, which has been true for probably 10 years, but nobody would have said it 10 years ago. Oh, no, we don't want to talk about that. That's political. No, it's really not. This is a very human problem. And no matter where you sit on the political spectrum, this is a human problem. We made it, we broke it, we need to fix it. You broke it, you bought it. Remember that? So the hydrological cycle, this is it, right? We understand that. Water evaporates, goes up into the sky, becomes rain, goes to hopefully where your crops are, it rains on it, and we're all good. Well, except that we've really disrupted the hydrological cycle such that it can't function the way it's supposed to. I don't have the slide in this deck, but we have a slide that shows the jet stream. Do you know what the jet stream is? Yeah, it's basically the air that floats around the wind that goes around the whole planet. Well, the jet stream used to go like this. And if you see the pictures, it now goes like this. So you get storms stuck down in those pockets, and they don't go anywhere. The big hurricanes like Katrina and the one that hit Houston 2 years in a row, there were hurricanes that hit Houston that dumped, something in the neighborhood of, I couldn't give you the statistic right now, but an enormous amount of rain over 24 hours such that it couldn't go anywhere. Now, if the clouds had not been so heavy, if they hadn't been so full of water, the wind would have blown them and they would have moved. But because we heated up the ocean and we had that much more water up in the atmosphere, they couldn't move. Yeah? Temperature increase in the oceans evaporates more water. Yeah, we understand that, but isn't that a lovely slide? So the downpours keep getting bigger. This is called a rain bomb. Have any of you heard of an atmospheric river? I have to tell you that 10 years ago when I heard about an atmospheric river, I really thought they were messing with me. I'm like, nuh-uh, Al Gore would not mess with me in a room this big. And no, he wasn't messing with me. I'm like, how can there be a river in the sky that is 4 times the size of the Mississippi? How is that possible? Well, it is. And now we know about it because they're hitting California, and we think it's called the Pineapple Express. There's a stream that comes from Hawaii and dumps generally into the San Jose area, but now because of other things now jumps further down south. And so what happens is you have this river. You have a river, and the river comes and it ends in a waterfall, right? Yeah? Yeah, goes over the cliff, ends in a waterfall. Well, this is a waterfall. The atmospheric river comes and it dumps everything in one place because it gets too heavy. These are happening more and more often. So heavy precipitation events are becoming more and more frequent all over the continental United States. You note the Northeast looks really, really ugly because 60% plus. Something else you should know about the Northeast is they are much closer to sea level than we are. And so with that kind of rain and those kinds of tidal events, flooding is becoming more and more extreme every day. In Florida, in Miami, 12 years ago, tidal flooding was an everyday event. You say, well, how can that be? That's a major city. It's because that's what you get used to. Have you ever heard of that metaphor about you take a frog and you put, this is a cruel metaphor, but you get the idea. You take a frog and you put it in a pot, right, of regular temperature water, and then you warm it up slowly. And the frog won't jump out because it acclimatizes as it goes on. Well, you just start wearing your galoshes to work and taking them off when you get inside. And you just get accustomed to living like this. And you don't see it's getting worse, this is a problem, maybe we should do something about it, or you feel like you can't do anything about it. "84% since the 50s. That's 103% increase. So this is what it looks like when you get the tidal flooding and rain flooding. Trying to take pictures of storm damage. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, when Al Gore first started talking about climate change and 9/11, what year was 9/11 in? Somebody help me? Okay, in 2002, when they started planning for where they were going to put ground zero, Al Gore said, don't put it there, it's going to flood. And they said, oh, no, it's not going to flood. It's very far away from the river. No, it's going to flood. It's going to flood. Well, it started flooding 5 years after. So that hole they have in the ground there, it routinely fills up with water from the river. Why? Because the ocean is rising, and we are not. This is Maine. This is Vermont. Worldwide extreme weather catastrophes are clearly on the rise, right? There's no doubt about that. These are just basic statistics. They come from Geo Research, which is not political. It's just a basic research team. Okay, remember when I was talking about money? Here we are. $3.28 trillion in the last 10 years. And yeah, that's the global economy, but that's the global economy. That's making a big dent in the global economy. We're having a hard enough time. I mean, remember when you couldn't get chips to get a new car? You couldn't get a chip to fix your computer? Remember that? Well, we can't keep making them if nobody's got any money. So just like the heat evaporates water from the ocean, it also evaporates water from the land. And when it evaporates water from the land, we call it drought. So we say there's correlation but not causation. Do you know what that means? Do you not know what that means? Okay. What it means is correlation means that obviously these things happen at a similar time in a similar way, but we cannot prove that one causes the other. It doesn't mean that one does not cause the other. It generally means that the system is much bigger than that and that there is causation, but it's further out. Like the system, the whole planetary system causes this to happen, and you can't prove it just by looking at the dry and the wet. The American Southwest is the driest it's been in 1,200 years, and you say, oh, but we had 2 years of good rain. We had 15 years of drought before that. You do not bail yourself out in 2 years. And let me tell you a little known fact, well, a little known to me anyway, and probably you if you're not a farmer. You know, I was thinking, oh, wow, we have all this water. It's going to replenish the underground water tables, right? Yep. Apparently not, because apparently when you suck that land dry, it collapses and you can't refill it with water. It's not a sponge. It's like cement. So what you end up with is you end up with all this water on the surface and you have to find some way to store it. Well, that was the problem we had last year, which was a lovely problem to have, but we didn't handle it as well as we could have because we didn't have anywhere to put that water. So when things get drier, again, this is another correlation but not causation issue. When things get drier, there's more fires, right? They're not caused, but you live in Southern California. Come on. Why am I showing you a fire in Texas and not one in California? 6 of the 7 worst fires in California history have been since 2000, so in the last 4 years. This Smokehouse Creek fire was one of the worst fires in United States history, which, believe it or not, are bigger than the fires we've had here in California. How do you fire and tornadoes are so very specific, One place is razed to the ground and the next place looks untouched. This is July 28th, 2023. You may not know this, or you may not be thinking about it, but this area right here, that's the boreal forest. That is the last great unbroken forest on the planet. And we're burning it. You know what else we're doing with it? quite likely you are using it to wipe your bottom. Most toilet paper comes from the boreal forest, and a lot of those trees are cut off native lands without native consent, and it's destroying their homes. So part of the reason as much of this is burning as there is that we've cut a bunch of it out to make toilet paper. And there's an entire documentary on that if you ever want to see it. It's called The Issue with Tissue. I know the guy that made the film, and he's a climate reality leader, and he's a really interesting person. But notice there's all of these other, can you see my cursor? Yeah, you can see my cursor. There's all these other fires down here. I mean, this is us. This is the Pacific Northwest, which, you know, in most of my life has been, you know, the wettest place that I knew about the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, things light on fire, and they just stay on fire for weeks. We have a fire just outside of Los Angeles. It's been burning for a week and a half, 2 weeks, maybe more than that. We have fires, but we used to be able to put them out in a couple of days, and now we don't put them out for weeks at a time. They think they have control of it, and then they don't have any control of it. You can't control the wind, and you can't control fire. This is the wildfire smoke over New York and New Jersey. Why is that important? Because that's the boreal forest burning. And all of that is being blown down into New York and New Jersey and DC and other places along the eastern seaboard. Why didn't we get it? Because the wind doesn't blow that way. So this is air pollution from the Canadian wildfires. June, July, August even, you know, don't go outside, don't breathe air that isn't air conditioned, and change the filters on your filter. Well, you know, that's all really special if you have money. But something you really need to think about is the worst of this is not being visited upon us. It's being visited upon those who don't have an air conditioner and will never have it, don't have an air filter, don't have a place to live, don't have any of those things. And we talk about humans on this planet, and we talk about how all the humans are affected and we need to save the children, and all of that is true. And yet, we are not the only people here. We have increased ocean acidification by 30%. That means that fish cannot continue to spawn because the stuff they used to use to protect their eggs is being eaten up by the ocean acid. Now, why is the ocean acidified? It's partly because of the ice sheets melting, so there's more clear water in the salt water, so there's not as much salt. Anyway, we can get into a very long scientific conversation, but that will make us crazy. So here are the poles. We talked about this a few minutes ago. You know, I think it's interesting. I don't know do you know why they named Greenland Greenland? You do? Because it got tourists to come there. There's way more ice in Greenland than there is in Iceland. But, you know, who wants to go to Iceland? Well, it sounds like ice. That doesn't sound very fun. Greenland, well, that sounds like fun, but the ice is melting 4 times faster than it is anywhere in the world. We are losing 30 tons of ice from Greenland every day. Imagine we're talking about a 50-degree difference in temperature from what it should be. Can you imagine? I mean, 50 degrees, think about it. If it was 60 degrees or if it was 110, that's huge. And we're talking about ice. Do you know what happens when ice melts? White ice becomes black water. Now, is it really black? Not really, but here's the thing. What color reflects the sun? White. And what color absorbs the sun? So now you have all this nice white ice that's now black water. So that's part of the reason that the ocean is absorbing even more heat, because the hotter it gets, the hotter it gets. Part of the reason that ice is melting is because the water underneath it, the seawater that goes up to the edge of it, is warm. And so it's melting from underneath. These are the top 10 cities at risk from sea level rise in 2070 by population. Note who is suffering here. India, Africa, China, and Miami, Bangkok. This, Imperial Beach, this is the top 10 cities at risk from sea level by asset. In other words, how much is it going to cost? Look who goes to first place, and now look who's in third. So maybe your children will still be able to live, but they won't have any place to live. From 2010 to 2020, sorry, there's a flaw in the slide. 16% of new multifamily units were built in high-risk flood zones. Guess why? There's nowhere else to build. It's like San Diego, right? Where else are you going to build? You can't build out there in sticks anymore because it's going to light on fire. And you shouldn't, but that's another issue. High tide flood frequency in the United States. So note, see these green balls and where they are. So the Gulf Coast, the Northeast, Florida, looks like San Francisco, parts of Oregon. Okay, now wait, it gets worse. This is where flooding is accelerating exponentially. Where do you see an orange dot? Imperial Beach, and beaches above it and below it. So the issues we have around the Tijuana River Valley are not going away. Those need to be repaired, and they need as much help making that happen. We have the money to make it happen now. Scott Peters was actually able to get the money to do that. Now we have to make it happen. And I don't know that 100 million is enough, but it's a good start. So 12 million people could lose their homes in the United States. One country, one mass of land in the entire world could lose, 12 million people could lose their homes. And I say to you, 12 million people lose their homes, where are they going to go? No, I'm asking you a real question. Where are they going to go? Do you have a home? You do. They're going to come here. They're going to go places that they can go, because when you have children, when you have family, you do whatever you can to make sure they're safe. You get them someplace that you can feed them, you can put a roof over their heads. I mean, that's just basic. And that's for those of us who have a choice. Most people, especially those 12 million people, because they're probably not the wealthiest people, because those people already moved, do they have the money to move anywhere? This is the World Health Organization. This is not the United States government. This is the World Health Organization saying this. I will tell you that in 2014, the United States military said that climate change is the biggest enemy we have on the planet in 2014. We're still burning jet fuel at an incredible rate of speed. So it's really interesting. It's like if you see the hand coming at your face, it's going to hit you in the face, right? You see it, you know it's going to happen, but you just stand there. That's in essence what we're doing. You know, the United States military, the Pentagon says, hey, this is the biggest enemy we have. Not Russia, not China, not the Middle East, none of that. Climate change. And who created climate change? We created climate change. And I do mean we, because a child born in the United States uses 10 times more resources than almost any other country in the world. Certainly 20 times more than most people in third world countries. So a child born in the United States is expensive to the planet. And the more the climate changes, the more we're able to get into places we probably ought not be. And what happens is we infect ourselves with new diseases. So things like West Nile virus, Rift Valley fever, a word I can't say, Chagas disease, dengue fever. There was a huge outbreak of dengue fever in Brazil this last year. It killed a lot of people and it hospitalized many, many more. There was no dengue fever in Brazil. This is all, you think, oh, well, I've heard of these diseases. Yeah, you have, but they didn't used to be here. West Nile virus in the United States, imagine. Zika virus in the United States. Pregnant women have to be afraid of mosquitoes. I mean, So here's the Brazilian issue. One of the things that we know about flooding is that waterborne diseases follows flooding, and that's not rocket science, right? You put a bunch of water where it's not supposed to be, and you mess with sewage lines, and you mess with street sewers, and you mess with all of that stuff, and people have to boil their water. Well, but the water that this guy's walking through in the street has not been boiled. And probably the water that he has at home when he goes home to clean up is not clean enough to get whatever diseases are on him off. And so you put that much more pressure on all of the hospital systems. And again, we're talking about billions and trillions of dollars. That number that you saw earlier, 3.28 trillion, doesn't touch some of the other issues. It doesn't touch some of the healthcare issues. That's not even added into the equation. Air pollution from fossil fuels kills 8.7 million people every year. That means driving your car helps to kill 8.7 million people. Disturbing. It's very disturbing to me. And so you think, oh, well, I should go out and get an electric car, but there's problems with getting an electric car, and we'll discuss those in the conversation section. They are far less significant than continuing to drive a carbon-based engine. 40% of the people in the United States live in counties that do not meet air quality standards by the EPA. So we, the United States, created this number. We said, below this is not safe to live. I have to tell you that I don't think I have the right slide, but that 40% of those counties are 80% people of color. There's a place in the Southeast called Cancer Alley, where people live and work and raise their children. Why is it called Cancer Alley? Because everyone who lives there knows that you have like 4 times greater probability of getting cancer if you live there than if you don't. But why do people live there? Because they don't have a choice. It's where their job is. And why is it Cancer Alley? Because of the petrochemical companies where they make plastic primarily, but also because of some oil companies. In the East Asia, the number is 3 out of 10. In the United States, it's 1 out of 10. It's still not good. So the climate crisis is also extinction and biodiversity crisis. It's not just, we're killing not just ourselves, we're killing everything and everyone. There's animals on this planet, I look at pictures of deer and that deer running through a forest fire, and I think to myself, that deer did not drive a car, that deer did not eat a hamburger. And yet, they're suffering far more than I. And so when you talk about all God's creatures, it hurts my heart. It really hurts my heart. I know that if you were here when we had the big fires in 2003 and 2007, and all that wildlife that died out there, and all that wildlife that was terrified for days and days, and the wildlife that's currently being terrified and killed and burned, and little squirrels that are trying to save their babies, and we don't see that. And we don't think about it, because if you thought about it every minute of every day, you'd make yourself sick, which is why I do this work, because it's what I can do. I can tell you, because when I tell you, I'm letting more people know and more people think about what needs to be done. We risk losing up to 50% of all land-based species this century. That's by the end of 2100. Can I have 5 extra minutes? Go into question, answer? Of course I can. Yeah. Okay, so here we talked about cost, right? So, who are you going to call? Your banker, because your banker is invested, quite likely. I mean, we talk about divestment. That means taking your money away from people who cause climate change. If you're at Wells Fargo, if you're at Bank of America, those guys are giving the loans to 11 of the worst pipeline issues going on in the United States. They are loaning them the money to build those pipelines. So if your money is in that bank, you're helping to loan them money. So, do we need to change? Gosh, I hope you say yes. Can we change? I mean, that's really like, oh my God, oh, it's horrible, what are we gonna do? Well, yes, we can change. We have the solutions, and the IEA, the International Energy Agency, took me a long time to be able to say that, determined that we have all the technology we need to reduce emissions by 50% by 2030. 2030 is what, it's 6 years, right? But the problem is you gotta use them. The problem with solar energy and wind energy is this. Just like with gasoline, you have to get it, you have to hold it, and then you have to use it, right? With the sun, you have to get it, you have to hold it, okay, getting it, solar panels, holding it, battery, use it, sending it out where it needs to go. And the more solar panels you can put in more places, the fewer lines you have to have and the less risk of fire you have. So, observe temperature. What we're saying here is, if in fact we were able to achieve zero emissions, these degrees over here on the side, degrees centigrade, have you ever heard of a group called SD350? There's 350 organizations all over the country, and there's usually one in every city. And why do they call themselves 350? Because the ideal amount of carbon to have in our atmosphere is 350 parts per million. We have right now 425. I remember the day we went over 350. But that is because of the degrees Celsius from how hot it's getting. So if you look at this and you see 0 degrees Celsius different from what it was, if it goes up to 1.5, we haven't quite hit 1.5 yet. If we hit 2.0, it doesn't bear thinking about. But we're getting to 1.5. If we can manage to stop doing that, if we can stop putting out those emissions, things can change. So we halted our CO2 emissions. All of that stuff would be absorbed by the water in 30 years. Again, 30 years just isn't that long in the long run. So we talk about green energy, and green energy has really become a reality here, at least in California, though not in the rest of the country in many places. And we talk about wind. The wind energy, we could power the entire world. This is how much energy, know that this just started in 2006, and see how much we have now? That's globally. The US as a whole could produce 13 times its current electricity needs just from wind. That means if we didn't have a single solar panel in the whole country. Globally, wind could supply the worldwide electrical consumption 40 times over. Just wind. Again, you have to capture it, you got to hold it, you got to send it where it needs to go. The solar energy market, same thing. We said, oh, we can do X amount, but the truth is, we've managed to exceed our goals by an outrageous number. So US solar installations, no, just 2010, we had very little, and now it's looking much better. And the reason that that is true is that in 1976, it cost $80 a watt to create solar energy, and it now costs 11 cents a watt to create solar energy, which is significantly less than coal or nuclear or anything else. Flat roofs in many places are ideal for solar. All you have to do is prop them. I would suggest that almost any of you who owns a home or even a condo in the city could put solar on it if you wanted to badly enough. That means, of course, you have to have conversations with people, which isn't easy, but if they can do it in the East, if they can do it in Kentucky, there's a new solar installation every 39 seconds in the US. This is what it looks like right now, 2023. Well, okay, it's 2024, but you know, we're not that quick. Enough solar energy reaches the Earth every hour to fill the world's energy needs for a full year. So what do you have to do? You have to grab it, you gotta hold it, you gotta send it where it goes. Okay, so there's issues with all those things. You gotta have solar panels, you have to have batteries, you have to have some kind of tech to send out that power. Electric cars are a very worthy idea. Some of you are going to tell me, oh, but there's bad things about electric cars. Yes, there are, but they are significantly better than the option. That's the truth, and I do have some statistics on that I can share with you when we're done. So, according to Bloomberg, the day of the gas engine is over. 2017, it was over. We have sold more electric cars since then than we've sold anything else. Chargers are going in everywhere. People say, oh, but I won't be able to charge mine. Yes, you can. It's really not that hard. Most households, you don't even have to put in a new wiring if you don't want to. It just takes a little longer to charge your car. So now we have much more battery capacity than we used to. But here's the deal. If you have a child or a grandchild and they're wondering what they want to do with their lives, here's the thing. Go into science and build a better battery, because that's what we need. We need a better battery. Become an electrician, become a plumber. That's it. If they're doing anything else, don't go get a degree in theater. I did that. Not helpful. Well, maybe a little helpful, but not really helpful. So battery storage is popping up all over. Now, there are problems with battery storage. Obviously, there's a battery storage plant on fire. Yes, we know that, but there's a lot of other things on fire too. Investments in renewables and the jobs, green jobs are really the future. They're really not even the future, they're the right now. If you're an electrician or you're a plumber, you can get a job today. If you want to become an electrician or a plumber, you can get a job today, because people will hire you as an apprentice and they will pay you money. If they can put solar in Massapequa, New York, and they can have Tesla facilities in New York, and we have one here, and there's one in Nevada, and they're all over the place. More jobs are coming from green energy than any other industry. So can we change? Yeah, of course. But here's the deal. This is the most critical word in my entire presentation. Will. Do you have the will to change? Can you, people say, oh, well, you know, and I just say, you know what, behavior, I'm a psychologist. Behavior change is absolutely one of the hardest things in the world. Have you ever tried to stop doing something you've been doing for a long time? Stop smoking, stop drinking coffee, stop eating sugar. Okay, these are all behavior changes. Stop throwing your trash on the ground. Stop throwing your cigarettes. Stop doing it. Do something different. Do something better. Stop eating meat. Do something better. Eat something better. I'm not saying never eat a hamburger again. I'm saying don't eat it every day. So, you know, I don't know about you, but whenever I go out to eat or even go get takeout with my family, whoops, too far. When I go get takeout with my family, come on, come back. We have the hardest time agreeing on anything. Well, Mexican, right? You know, it takes, okay. Anyway, everybody in the world agreed to do something. We opted out, but then we opted back in, and we're in. So we can, oh, I'm going the wrong direction. Dun, dun. We really have options. We really do have choices. We really are making changes, but we need everybody to step in and make those changes, not just some of them, not just some of you. These are companies, some of them may be companies that are important to you. We can talk about the IRA later. We can talk about that. So this is really the deal. We need you to talk. We need you to talk to everybody you know. We need you to vote. Vote your conscience, but vote for the planet, because that's really the only thing there is. If we don't have this planet, we have nothing. Make different choices. Use less gas. Put in an electric water heater in your house. There are people who can help you with all of that, and I can hook you up with them. This planet depends on you, and it depends on the choices you make. And I ask you to make different choices and to help us all make different choices. So thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate it. Do you want me to stay here?
Yes.
Okay. It's question time. And if you would like to join us, please take a picture of this slide.
That one?
Yeah, that one.
Okay, great. If you have questions on your 3x5 card, Scott is going around to pick those up. Please hand those to him, and he'll ask the questions from the other mic to you.
I'll be right here. Oh, geez, I have to read them, huh? Oh, thank you, Scott, because I don't have my glasses. Well, that's why I have big font on my computer. Okay, we need somebody younger to read these things.
Forgive the sunglasses. I left my real ones at home. Is there a national program?
Yes.
For what?
Yes, there is a national climate reality program. It's also a global program. It's called the Climate Reality Project. And you're so lucky, really, truly, honest to God. I told you about the training that I went to in Denver, right? Well, since COVID, we created also an online presentation that is a training that lasts. The next one that's coming up is from October 17th to October 23rd. The green link on the slide will take you to the link to sign up. It's a commitment. It's not 10 days every day, all day. It's a couple hours on Saturday, a couple hours on Sunday, and then there's videos that you watch during the week, and then another Saturday and Sunday where it's a couple hours and a couple hours. And you will need to be there at the time they design because, of course, it's national and you have to appease the East Coast and the West Coast and Hawaii. We hope we get some people from Hawaii. I would love for you to sign up to come to this training. If you do, we have this local chapter here, San Diego Climate Reality Project, and I'm the coalition's chair, but we would love to have help. We need all the help we can get. Does that answer the question? I guess.
It does.
Okay.
Is there a solar panel that can be installed inside a room so that solar power is collected through the glass window?
No, but there are solar panels that you can put just outside your window, like that stick out of your window like this. You can get them. They're camping solar panels, but I don't know of any that will be powered by light inside. It's possible that those would work inside, but I don't know.
Okay, thank you. Does 11 cents per watt cost of solar power production include the cost of panel storage, et cetera?
Yes.
Could you talk about the impact of presidential election outcome on climate change solutions?
Do you really want me to talk about that? Is it okay if I talk about that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to take off my climate reality leader hat because as a climate reality leader, I'm not allowed to endorse any candidate. And I'm not going to, actually. Look at the issues in front of you. There's someone that says that they don't believe in climate change and that they're going to become a king and they're going to do a lot of malicious things to people that live here. If you think they're going to do malicious things to people who live here, can you imagine what they will do to animals that live here and to trees that live here and to native peoples? I did not say, and I usually say in the beginning of my presentation, I am grateful to be here and working on Kumeyaay lands. This is not our world. It's not our land. We're here by the grace of the Kumeyaay. Well, and the fact that we threw them out. Does that answer that question? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thank you. Have Canadian fires always been more frequent than
No.
the U.S.?
No.
That's
No.
a direct condition of climate change.
Yes.
So a question here has been answered. I'll read it anyway. Do electric vehicles really help save the planet? I think you've answered that.
Yes, they do.
Yes.
Give me a second, though.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of you are going to say the lithium-ion batteries that are in electric vehicles are that the drilling and mining for lithium-ion is really bad, yada, yada, yada. And I agree with you. It's true. It's not spectacular. But batteries are getting better and better, and they are using less and less lithium-ion. In fact, there's a hydrogen cell vehicle that I know Toyota's putting one out. I think somebody else has got one, and I'm sure you'll see more of them on the market pretty soon. It basically runs on water. But the batteries in that vehicle use like 10% of the batteries that are used in hybrid vehicles, electric vehicles, and the damage done to the planet, the damage done to the atmosphere is significantly less than, I'm not saying there's no damage, but we're very well aware that solar panels themselves, the batteries themselves, what do you do with them when you're done with them? That's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm. Rick?
One person online would like to do a statement.
I can repeat the question. It's okay. Go ahead.
One of our online people would like to know if you could state the name of your organization once again.
Sure. The name of my organization is the Climate Reality Project. And if you, I think online, they can look at, online they can get to this slide, right? So this slide has links and it also has my email.
So the screen is dark right now behind
whoops.
us.
How
So
about
if we
that?
could
Well, then they can't see it,
refresh
can they?
that maybe?
End of slideshow. Where did it go? Hang on.
Sure.
I don't know why it reset itself. Okay, this slide, the green link will take you to the application for the training, but it also just takes you to the national website. The link on the top, CRPSD, it's not up there. Kevin? Kevin, help me. Turn it off and turn it back on? I didn't do anything. Honest. Okay, here's the easiest thing to do. The easiest thing to do, CRPSD. There's a link to email. crpsd.org.
Thank you. Do we have the attention of the right people to solve the Tijuana River Valley problem?
There's a lot of people working on the Tijuana River Valley problem, and it's sticky wicket in part because we're dealing with part of that land is city land, part of the land is county land, and part of the problem comes from Mexico. You know, if we could do it, if we could give the money to Mexico to fix their sewage system, and they would then use it to do so, I mean, there's a whole lot of ifs in there, so we can't necessarily control that, but we do need to control what happens here. So you have to have the city working together, the county working together, and the feds that gave us the money to do it. And the money that money came from the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. Do you all know about the Inflation Reduction Act? Yeah. Do you know the projects that are being completed in San Diego because of the bipartisan infrastructure bill? That bridge that's being rebuilt over from the 8 freeway into Mission Bay, all that is being paid for by the partisan infrastructure bill. The IRA monies are being put into homes all over the city. There's money out there to get an electric car. There's money out there to replace your water heater. There's money out there to do all of these things in such a way that it would not cost you any more than it would cost you to buy anything else. So if you say to yourself, oh my gosh, an electric car costs too much, well, if you buy a new one, they'll give you $8,000. And if you buy a used one, they'll give you $4,000.
Why are electric companies, SDG&E, for example, being so greedy when it comes to...
Because people who have money want to keep their money. And people who have money want to make more money. And that is the sticky wicket. And those people are maintaining some control over something called the California Public Utilities Commission, who allows them to do that stuff. And you are tap dancing on a nerve that I've been doing a lot of work about the SDG&E issue, and yeah, so if you want to talk to me about that afterwards, I'll be here.
How will climate change affect mass migration?
31 million people last year had to move because of climate change. 31 million people, that's in 2023, had to move somewhere that they could feed their children. What's happening at our border right now is a microcosm of climate change. People have to go somewhere. And most of them are coming from places where they are not the people that cause the problem, they are the people suffering from the problem. Guatemala, they had lots of farming in Guatemala, and nobody wants to pick up their 3-year-old and walk 2,000 miles. Nobody wants to do that.
Right.
They don't come here to steal our jobs because it's fun. They come here because they can't feed their kids.
Thank you. So let's see. I heard recently about methane crates in Siberia and new lakes with methane bubbles.
Methane craters, yes. I do
Craters, sorry.
That's okay.
That's my difficulty reading.
I have a slide about that, and it shows a Russian soldier, and he touches the ground where it looks like just grass. It's like tundra, and the whole ground goes. And they have these pockets, and when they blow, they create these gigantic craters. And methane is, I think, 30% more intense for the atmosphere than CO2, but it dissipates faster. So yeah, that's a very terrible thing. And why is that happening? It's happening because the planet is heating up, and the permafrost is melting. Thank you very much. Yep. In the permafrost, there are organisms. So it's not just frozen ice, it's frozen little bugs and frozen like little things that put off CO2. So and methane. So when they warm up and they come alive again, or they just fall apart because they're dead, all that emissions goes back out into the world.
Thank you. I have a card here that says "My opinion," and I would just like to know the individual that wrote that. Is there a question to be asked out of this?
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
When you mentioned the Inflation Reduction Act,
Yes.
who do we contact?
You can talk to me, and I will set you up with other people.
Would you mind restating the question just so that people
The
online
Inflation
here-
Reduction Act. There's monies in the Inflation Reduction Act, like I was talking about earlier, where you can get money to buy a new car or an old car. You can get money to replace your gas water heater, or your gas heater, or your gas dryer. Any of those things. I mean, you're not going to get all the money, but you'll get enough of it so that it won't cost any more than it would have if you'd bought the appliance and it was gas. Because that's the problem, right? A lot of you don't want to pay because it's expensive. I understand. And so does the Inflation Reduction Act. If you talk to me afterwards, I will give you my card. You can contact me, send me an email, or you can have my email. My email is very simple. It's very long, but it's very simple. Dr. Cherry Climate Change @gmail.
Is that doctor spelled out or DR?
DR.
Okay.
DrCherryClimat. You'd never know I taught English for a living. Okay. Just come talk to me. I'm not going anywhere.
So that is all the questions that we had. Are there any other questions that have not been asked that folks have thought about? Yes, ma'am.
So we're tearing down forests in Canada to make toilet paper.
Yes, ma'am.
Does it cost more money to make toilet paper out of recycled cardboard and other goods?
No, but you have to buy it at the right place. And if you're shopping at Costco, or you're shopping at Smart and Final, or you're shopping at most supermarkets, you're not going to be able to buy it there. Sprouts carries recycled paper, toilet paper. There's also a company called Give a Crap. But they are not the only ones that do this. They're just the one whose name I know. Give a Crap makes toilet paper out of bamboo, and they make toilet paper out of recycled paper. So you do have. Yes. When I first started buying bamboo toilet paper, you couldn't buy it anywhere else, but now you can. I think they even have some at Target. So you can buy, it says recycled paper, toilet paper, or it says bamboo toilet paper. And frankly, if you don't know about bamboo, bamboo is a grass and it grows like grass, and it is so renewable. It is so much more renewable than anything else we're using.
So for everybody online, the question that had been posed that you just answered was whether the cost of producing recycled toilet paper, I believe, was cheaper or easier than all of the tearing down of the forests that we're doing in Canada that's causing all of the wildfires, if I understood the question correctly.
Well, I can't say that it's causing the wildfires.
Right.
I would say it's correlated with the wildfires.
There you go. Fair, very fair.
It's a very dicey wicket.
Yes. Thank you for the question.
There's one in the back.
I believe we have a comment.
One in the back.
Oh, go ahead.
I think I wrote it on the card, but here's what happens to me. Like, I read all these horrible articles, and I feel scared. And I'm scared for my children, grandchildren, everybody's children and grandchildren. And I would like to suggest that when you do these presentations, make a huge list of what we can do that's tangible. You know, maybe it's on your
You know what? I have a list that I can email you, but the more you look for yourself, the more you will find, you know, eating less meat, things like that. And I can do an entire presentation on what you can do.
Well, it's overwhelming.
It is overwhelming. It's absolutely overwhelming. It's absolutely overwhelming. I wish that I didn't know a third of what I know, and I really only told you a very small percentage of what I know. And all I can do is keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep talking to people and keep asking them to help and to contribute and to talk to other people. You know, when you go to pick up food at a to-go place, bring your own container. They don't like it, but they'll do it. I can. I can.
Okay, we have a comment that's been waiting here, and I'd like
I'm
to give
sorry.
her the opportunity.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. I'm a nurse and I'm an educator, and I've been a long time volunteer at city schools and other schools because we're career Navy. I'm very concerned with the Tijuana River, and we're not just talking about polluted water when it comes to skin diseases, gastrointestinal. Just this week, there's a pediatrician in the South Bay who, I don't remember the statistics, but an alarming increase in asthma and asthma-related respiratory diseases, common colds. They also interviewed a woman who's had a daycare for 20 years. They can't play outside because the pollution that they're smelling is affecting their lungs. Then you know you put children inside, they're going to spread those diseases, and it makes their tissues more vulnerable to other respiratory infections like RSV, COVID, etc. I would particularly like to know how we can advocate for our youngest children that are in our county, in our city, on how to deal with this problem. What can I do starting today?
There are a group of physicians here in San Diego who do this exact work, and they're forever raising money to try to educate people. Some of it is education, some of it is change, and some of it is getting your hands dirty and getting out there and doing the work. I mean, cleaning up the Tijuana River Valley is something you need to do like every freaking weekend for the rest of time. It doesn't solve the sewage problem, but changing the sewage plant will do that. It's not that people are not aware that this is going on, although I'm sure there are plenty of people who are not. It's that the action needs to take place. So talk to your county board of supervisors, ask them what they're doing and why they're not doing it. Talk to your city council, ask them what they're doing and why they're not fixing this. I worked for Head Start for 13 years, and I'm very, very, very painfully aware of the distressing number of children with asthma that live in low and no income communities. And it is astronomically higher than it is in white, middle class, upper class communities. I mean, it's like crazy. I mean, you go into a preschool classroom and you have 5 kids with an inhaler out of 20.
We have a question here.
Mm-hmm. So, when I was going to Water's Edge, Pastor Jessica actually printed up a sheet of all these little just changes people could make. And I'll bet every person here has made little changes that they could share. All it takes is an idea. When I saw this program on TV about the methane explosions and craters in Siberia and the bubbling lakes in Alaska, my son lives in Alaska, so I've been there, and it's horrifying to me to hear that. I don't know, it really made an impression on me, that particular thing. But, so I have made little changes since then. When I go to a takeout, I refuse the plastic bag. I used to bring my lunch sandwiches in baggies. Now I put it in a Tupperware, and I wash the Tupperware. Instead of using a bag, I use a little sliver of saran wrap, which is significantly less. So I'm just saying, in all settings, many settings, people are creative, and like I said, I think everybody here would have an idea. Could be shared on a regular basis.
Well, The woman in the back asked a little while ago about why I don't give this list. Well, I mean, the list is, I mean, we have a booklet that's like, I don't know, 100 pages, I don't know, 50 pages long, and it just gets longer all the time because everybody can find something in their immediate environment.
But
What
sharing
what
it
are you
is what I'm
personally
saying.
willing to change? Yes, and sharing that, talking about it to everybody you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Just blather on. They'll get sick of it, but who cares?
I mean, any group that gets together could spend 5 minutes
Yeah.
sharing those ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You could spend 5 minutes before each service.
Yeah.
Or after each
There
service.
you go.
Yes.
I have a question on, our country is fairly ahead in technology and resources and the like, and that's good. Some good is better than none, but since this is a world problem and world compliance, when you take third world countries like India and China and South America, that like Mexico are quick to say, yes, we'll correct the Tijuana River problem, and years later, I know there are complex political concerns in that going on, but do you think the world will be able to get together as a whole in time to prevent the worst of this and save humanity
There's
from a lot of
something,
these ills?
there's a meeting that happens every year called the COP, and the last one was COP 28, and it was it in Saudi Arabia? Maybe. There's a global meeting once a year somewhere on the planet where everybody comes together and talks about this is where we are and this is what we need to do. So yes, there are people in the world doing that, and you could go do it yourself if you wanted to. There's not like a degree you need, there's not like a ticket you have to punch. You just have to pay your ticket to get there. So yeah, there are people doing that now. And is it enough? I don't know. But I have to tell you, I have a whole bunch of slides I couldn't show you, and some of them show you that China and India, and especially Europe, are far more technologically sophisticated than we are. We are not technologically sophisticated in this arena, and I will tell you why not. Because we are the only first world country on the planet who is still having a conversation about climate change. Every other first world country in the world, including Russia and China and India, all admit human-caused climate change is a problem and we need to do something about it. Now, what they're doing about it is different. India and China are both throwing up more solar than you can, I mean, you look at some of the pictures of this stuff and it's like hundreds of acres of solar panels, like the biggest solar farms you've ever seen. But honestly, the best answer is small solar in individual communities rather than gigantic solar farms. But that's a whole different SDG&E conversation.
I just want to say that a few years ago, I was with the Rotary International in Portugal and Lisbon, or Lisboa as they call it. And they weren't using plastic bags. I mean, we were kind of like, what is this? You go in the grocery store and bringing out food with no bags. And then we came back to San Diego, to California, and we're resisting even taking a cloth bag in or doing something with that. That's a small thing, but they were doing that many years ago. I think our attitude is always to blame others when we have more cars, we have more vehicles, we spend more, we do more, and it's not until things in Tijuana go to IB, Imperial Beach, and now Coronado is having problems with its beaches. Ooh. And I hear people, they're angry now about that. But
would that they'd been angry 10 years ago.
Yes. So, and I'm even talking about myself, all of us, we have to start taking this seriously and doing something about it, not just blaming somebody else or looking at our neighbors, but start looking at ourselves to see how we can do something. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
There are several congregations I have worked with and approached in the past, and a lot of them create something called a creation care team, which is a group within your church community that focuses on dealing with climate change and the issues around that, and things that the church can do and things that the community as a whole can do. So, I mean, that is an option for you should you choose to do it.
Thank you so very much. And Are we not more informed? Thank you. I would like to emphasize one more thing. What Cherry said was the most important word in her presentation was will. So we have to determine what we're going to do and what the outcome will be of our actions. Thank you. Thank you very much. For those of you who have not already donated, we have paper bags that you can put money into, and we'd be grateful. Right now, we're going to end our presentation, and food is put out on the table behind you. Please join us for some light lunch and conversation. One more question. Oh, thank you, the evaluations. Please fill out your evaluations, and you can just leave them on your table because your name will not be on it. But this young lady up here in the green vest, who stands out because of her green vest.
And maybe for other reasons.
And maybe for other reasons. Anyway.
She found me first.
She will be picking up all the evaluations, those pink sheets on your table.
So we happen to have one more question that came online, and I'm just wondering.
Okay.
Okay, sure.
So
What do you got?
the online question says, do you think we can solve the climate crisis without controlling population growth?
I think that population growth will control itself. One of the things that Jimmy Carter, oh my gosh, you know, if there's a human on the planet who has done more for this planet, I don't know who they are. Jimmy Carter says very clearly in several statements that educating women and girls is the best birth control on the planet. And so when you educate women and girls, which is happening more and more as we try to approach other problems, that birth control will happen by itself naturally. I mean, do we need to stop having babies? Probably, but I mean, you know, that's a very long conversation. And I'm not. My mom worked for Planned Parenthood. I don't even entertain that concept at home.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our presentation. Thank you for being here. I would just like to say we have a field trip down to the Tijuana Estuary in April as part of our events, and we'll learn all about what's happening down there. So, thank you again. Have a good lunch. Thank you so much. I did want you to know, too, that